Hello. Welcome to Season 10 of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. In each episode, we both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation together about what we liked, what we hated, if we were scared, and maybe even some larger truths about why people watch horror movies in the first place. This season, our theme is Because We Have the Microphone. And because we have the microphone, you will listen as we discuss a bunch of movies that we just kind of feel like watching with no rhyme or reason. Think of it as a collection of movies that we've referenced a lot in previous seasons or been curious about for a long time. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the episode. Did you ever go to the Sleepaway Camp?
Not this one, man. Did you?
I know. Well, I mean, we went to like the church camps a couple times, but I never went to one that was just like anything like this. I feel like people always talked about it. This is like you see it in movies, but it just wasn't real to me growing up. The idea of like being out in cabins or something.
Yeah, I mean, I had to go to football camp where we just had to do a bunch of running, and I think it ended up really just being fat camp.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, I don't know what is considered, like, because we did sleep at these camps that we went to, but they were all religious, no killing.
Yeah.
Boring.
Yeah. Or really like the focus on like the outdoor activities or like, like this whole concept to me just seems like a very like 80s and 90s thing that it maybe, but it was just like so far outside my realm of experience. I have a hard time like figuring it out or connecting to it.
Well, I feel like it's a northeastern or like a northwestern thing. Cause like, what are you, sure, we want to go spend a week at a camp with no AC in the middle of summer, Oklahoma heat. Like, no.
Yeah, it's 110 degrees.
Yeah, no, like we'll die.
Yeah.
So it might just be like a northern thing. I didn't include central, like Midwest, because, you know, I don't have anything to do with, South Dakota anymore.
Yeah, no, they're off our list.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, with that as the preamble, this is the last movie of season 10. Can you believe it?
I can't. I'm so excited.
Come a long way from back in the days when we were just kicking off this season. Can you believe we've been doing this for a decade?
It's crazy.
That's not even true.
I know.
We've been doing it for a while, though.
Since 2017?
Yeah, so that's kind of impressive. 10 seasons is a lot.
If you think about, I've said this before, I think, but like our early seasons, I mean, we posted 3 episodes at a time.
That was so dumb.
Yeah.
Why did we do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, we've gotten into more of a groove. We kind of know what we're doing a little bit more.
Yeah.
I've also stopped caring a lot more on like the editing, which helps things go faster. So.
Oh yeah, that's the trick right there, man.
Yeah, we used to have really long episodes too, which was dumb.
Yeah, that was stupid on our part too.
But 10 more seasons, we might actually get good at this. So,
which would be about 2 years.
Right, exactly. At this rate. But yeah, so the movie we did was Sleepaway Camp. I had not seen it before. Had you?
I have.
I have actually had this one recommended to me multiple times since we started doing this podcast.
Yeah.
And so I was glad that we got to kind of follow through on it.
Yeah, this is a movie where I thought to myself, why haven't you seen this before?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is something that I felt like I would have watched. But I don't think I watched it until, I was at this house that we're in, which we bought in 2018, so it's been since then that I watched it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Well, I will be excited to hear your thoughts about it. I'm going to go ahead and do the introduction. Then you can do your fun facts. And then we will get into the far from home details. In 1983, United Film Distribution Company brought us Sleepaway Camp, a summer camp slasher that was written and directed by Robert Hiltzik. Sleepaway Camp tells the story of 2 young cousins who are sent to a summer camp where a series of mysterious murders take place. In between baseball games and creepy camp counselors, an insidious secret about one of the cousins' past is revealed. This movie was made on a budget of $350,000 and brought in about $11 million at the box office. Additionally, it has accrued a strong cult following and spawned a string of sequels. Sleepaway Camp can currently be rented for streaming on Amazon Prime Video. What did you learn about this movie?
Can you not watch it for free?
I couldn't.
Huh. So, I learned a few things about this movie. So, the original artwork for this film came out in like a Sleepaway Camp survival kit box thing. And so, basically, it was like, a package of like, quote unquote, a survival kit, and it had like the Red Cross on it because it's supposed to be like first aid. And they made like 20,000 of them, and then started selling them, and then realized after someone from Canada reached out, basically the Red Cross symbol is like protected under the Geneva Convention, and it was like, hey, you can't use that. Like, that's prohibited. Geneva Convention is kind of a big deal, and so they took it serious, and they immediately repackaged everything and changed it. I would be interested to see if anyone actually still has those. I think that would be pretty sweet if they did.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, maybe worth some money, but so the movie starts out and it has it has the two kids on the boat, right? Well, the boy Peter is played by Frank Sorrentino, which is the younger brother, or which is the brother of the Situation from the Jersey Shore. Situation's one who has a bunch of abs, went to rehab. It's also free on Peacock. Yeah, those are my fun facts.
Muy interesante, mi amigo.
I knew it had to be on something else.
I don't know how I missed that. Because
like 1,000 of them if you look at what app.
Real good. To make your streaming experience real good.
Nice.
No, I thought I looked on there. I must have just been looking at like the wrong one or the wrong version or something, but yeah.
Sometimes procrastinating has its benefits.
Indeed. But yeah, this one, in the beginning I had a really hard time making sense of this movie.
Right.
Because I'm like, this reminds me of a Nickelodeon show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it has actual kids playing the kids. And it's like the overacting, kind of over the top, goofy interactions, but like with swearing and violence. And it's just like, I guess I was so conditioned by the 90s to be like expect certain things from a show by Nickelodeon that I just kept expecting that from this, and then it would take a turn and it would be kind of surprising. So it took me a while to get there, but I think I did on the whole enjoy a lot of things about it, have a lot of questions, but there were ups and downs. It was, I could definitely see where this would be one that you would enjoy. And it was also one that Sarah watched the whole time with me. Whereas a lot of times when I start watching a horror movie, she quickly loses interest and, like is on her phone or doing work stuff or something. So this one I feel like kind of had sort of that like nostalgic, almost blockbustery 80s movie appeal, but it did still go hard in the horror department.
It definitely did. I think if we consider Friday 13th a horror film, we got to consider this one.
Yeah, fair, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a kids camp slasher.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a hard sell.
What the beginning kind of reminded me of was like, have you ever seen Little Monsters?
I have not.
So
we should have done that one this season because it's come up a number of times. Yeah.
But it reminded me of like, kind of like what you're saying with the Nickelodeon, but like for me it was like the acting of it. So talking about like the aunt who was like over the top acting.
That was weird. Yeah.
But that's what reminded me of like Little Monsters, because down there were some people that were just they acted strange and were just super, super weird. It's almost like that's what they thought people in horror movies acted like. But that it definitely reminds me. I know exactly what you mean when you were saying, reminded you of Nickelodeon, because I thought the same thing. I feel like the first maybe like, I don't know, fifth of the movie is for sure like that, and then it takes a pretty drastic turn as soon as they get to camp.
Yeah. Yeah, and so there was kind of that opening scene where there was like the boat accident and one of the kids and the dad die, and then one of the kids survives, and then there's the girl who's like the whole transition piece there was really confusing to me. It took me a while to understand that what they were going for was that the daughter had survived, even though it looked like the son was the one that had survived in the beginning, and that was supposed to be like a thing, like a big reveal later. But it just was kind of confusing to me because it was obvious in the opening scene. And then she and Ricky go to camp, and she's weird, and you're like, okay. But then it was like, well, that was just a really weird intro scene, and the transition from that into the rest of it was confusing. But then they were at camp, and everything kind of made sense again, and so I just didn't really think too much about it until the end.
Well, and I think the weirdness can be explained by, is she just, mute or quiet after going through a tragic experience of losing what you think her brother and father at the same time.
Well, so that's where it got me, is because I didn't realize they were supposed to be. I didn't realize she was supposed to be one of the kids, because I thought it showed pretty clearly in the beginning that the son had swam away, but you knew the dad and one of the other kids had been hit by the boat. So,
well, I think you just see a body floating, and it's like the hair is like covered at the end.
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking about like right before that. I thought you saw the son like clearly out of the way.
Oh.
And so that's why it was confusing to me that it was so anyway, all that to say, it took me a minute to kind of get my bearings.
Yeah.
And then it got to the camp, and with the camp, it was kind of the traditional horror sequence where there are like the scenes that are kind of moving the story along, and then the scenes that are like the setup and kind of the more slow paced and suspenseful horror death. And then, like after the fact, somebody finds the body and it's really gruesome. And so I enjoyed that part of it. And I thought some of the death scenes were pretty well done. Like, I thought the practical effects were great, but also some of the setup didn't always make a lot of sense. Like, I feel like kind of the ambition for the scenes was a little more than what they were able to pull off. It was almost like we want to make up a body that looks like this, so we just need a premise to get it to that point, as opposed to let's do something that makes more sense. But it still had the same like outcome.
Yeah. I mean, I think to try to make sense of something like this is probably be a little bit easier to do that with Ninja 3 maybe.
Yeah, right.
Because it definitely, like you kind of can grasp the concept, but yeah, I mean, it's almost like it was a segment TV show with some of the scenes. Yeah. It's like, wait, why does she hate him? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's why. Why does she? Whatever the case is. So, and then like what I wanted to know was like, she couldn't have just ended up like this. So, has she been killing people? Before? Oh,
like for a long time. That's what I was
more curious about. But being that I watched it before, I was able to kind of get my thinking going. But it definitely has like storylines of like the storyline of it is like crossing lines. The whole movie. Or not crossing lines as in just things that you wouldn't have probably have seen too much of during that time, which I think is probably why this became like an underground hit kind of thing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, and the idea of having kids in it too. Like we've talked about this before, but you don't really see kids die in any movies all that often, much more so in horror movies. That's almost like an unwritten thing. And so when it does happen, it really stands out. And the fact that, a kid was also the villain in this one, I think also made it kind of unique.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because like Felissa Rose, who played Angela, she was only 15 at the time of filming.
Yeah. So a lot of them were really young.
Yeah. So it's super, super crazy.
Yeah. So I feel like you were meant to think that Ricky was like the good guy. through most of it, but he was also kind of a bully and an asshole.
Yeah, I think I picked up that I thought that they were trying to make it seem like he was the one doing it. Like killing.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that, but it also, I don't know, that seemed a little too obvious to me, but...
I did like how, like, his, like, yeah, he's obviously, like, smaller than the guys, like, when they were playing baseball or softball or whatever. Like, he was obviously smaller, but, like, he was super competitive.
Yeah.
It was just, like, that whole scene was just, like, strange to me, because it's like, yeah, technically it doesn't need to be this long, but...
Yeah.
I just liked it, because it was like, man, this kid is a bulldog. Like, he's just not letting up. Like, I think they said something to him when he was on base or something, and his response was like, fuck you to him or something. Like, I was like, holy shit, this kid's not messing around. Okay.
Yeah, I ended up taking a lot of notes on the baseball scene just because it went on so long.
Yeah.
And one question I had was, do you think this was the template for the Sandlot? And then also, it was like, do you think the director, like, thought he was really good at baseball as a kid, but, like, didn't get the credit for it? And so he's, like, writing himself into this movie winning a game against the odds, like, so that he can just relive it or something.
Right.
Like, it felt so out of place because it played no part in the larger storyline of anything that was going on whatsoever, but it just kept going. And then, you know, Ricky's team won, and it's like, that's kind of what you were, like, supposed to be hoping for. And then it happened, and it's just like, cool. And then it was just over. Yeah. And so, yeah, that was weird.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely a weird, like, I think it was weirder watching it after having seen it before, because you're like, oh, you know what to expect, you know what's going on, and you know, like, oh, like whatever guy that was interested in her is like in for a surprise kind of thing, you know. So it's those things that you're just like, it's a different viewing experience. Yeah, watching it again than the first time for sure.
Did it make any more sense that Meg had a date with Mel?
No.
Because what?
Yeah. No, I think that character was specifically just supposed to be the, like, the jerk of the crew, and she played it really well.
So I was, like, reading about the movie before I realized anyone except the guy that kind of looked like one of the CHIPS officers was a camp counselor. Because, and maybe it's just because I'm old, but everybody else just looked like roughly the same age to me. So I didn't realize there were, like, other counselors too. Yeah. And so I guess it makes a little more sense in that regard, but it was still just weird. And, like, why was one of the counselors one of the bullies too? Like, there's just so much... There's a lot of weirdness in the relationships between people in this movie.
1000%. You know what's funny is I don't think I realized that Meg was a counselor until now.
Was she not?
No, she was.
Okay.
That's funny. Oh, yeah. Okay.
But the counselor was also like head mean girl, which was
right.
Strange.
Yeah, it's like, hey, yeah, I wonder if her life was so miserable. Like, she was the nerd back home, but she's like, I can't wait till camp, and I'm gonna be a real bitch. Yeah. That's funny, dude.
I will abuse my power. Yeah. She's like all the people we grew up with that became cops.
Yeah. That's hilarious, dude. Oh, and if she was dating, oh man. Yeah. What a weird, but it had Robert Earl Jones in it.
I did not put that together.
Yeah. Huh. Which is the father of James Earl Jones. Just thought I'd tell you that. Yeah. So here's the thing with this movie. This is a slasher 80s. I feel like this is the epitome of an 80s slasher horror. Yeah. Like, where you could get away with putting topics in films that were pretty taboo. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying they got away with it. It's already been done. It's one where you don't necessarily have to think about. Now, around the time that I watched this, the reason why I watched Sleepaway Camp was because I just watched Wet Hot American Summer, like the comedy, which I don't know if anyone's seen that, but it has like a whole bunch of like young famous people in it nowadays. So Amy Poehler was in it. A ton of them. I can't think of. What was the guy who played American Sniper? Bradley Cooper. A young Bradley Cooper is in it. Like just a bunch of people. And so I was watching on Netflix or Hulu. I can't remember which one. And this came recommended. And I was, I'm going to check that out. So like I had Sleepaway Camp, or I had Wet Hot American Summer in there, which is like a Mel Brooks style camp movie, but it's a comedy. And so like it just fit right in. So it just kind of, I don't know if when I watched it the first time it just made more sense because of that, or like it just kind of worked out because I just watched another camp film. But, this is not by any means, the most well put together horror movie, but at least they gave it a shot to give it a twist ending that thought would fool people. And, what can you do?
Well, yeah. So I think the real strength of the movie were the practical effects. Mm. And so there was the scene where, like after Kenny had been drowned and they found his body, and then like the snake comes crawling out of his mouth and all the burns on that creepy chef. And then the ending where she's like basically eating the kid, or ripped him apart and there's blood everywhere. Those all really landed from the horror perspective, just because of how shocking the visuals were. And so in the ending, even though you kind of knew or could probably predict what was happening, just the shockingness of that scene was really intense. And the way that it just got left with no wrap up, no explanation, just kind of like the intense music and the freeze frame on the psycho killer, naked and covered in blood, and the body parts of her boyfriend on the ground. You're right. That was intense, and then it just stops, and you're like, what did I just see? What just happened? And so the shocking aspects of it I thought were really effective as far as what they were trying to do. I think the weaknesses of the movie were just a lot of the story elements that didn't really make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I still stick by sometimes they don't have to.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I mean, I would prefer it this way than like going way too complex. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was relatively short. It was kind of funny in parts. It had a lot of decent horror scenes. Like, I feel like it was a good way to end the season. And I feel like this one, is definitely like a fan favorite. Like a lot of people are really into this, and I've had it recommended a number of times. Yeah. And so I'm glad we finally got to take a look at it.
Well, and I feel like also, it's almost like a revenge film, because I feel like a lot of the bad people got kind of what they had.
Well, yeah, sorry, that was another thing
the cook.
Yeah, a lot of things I had in my notes were like, most of the deaths were really satisfying.
Yeah.
Like they really made you not like the people that had bad stuff happen to them, with the exception of the boyfriend at the end. And so that's why another reason that one hit so hard was just that like, he was actually one of the few people that was nice in the movie. And so it was sad to see him get it too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that's made up for some of it was, taking out some of the people who, I don't want to say deserved it, because I'm not a psychopath, but like in the film itself, deserved it.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost reminded me a little bit of Henry, where it's like, in the end, he turns on the one person that you thought, would be like his salvation or whatever. So it kind of had that same vibe as well.
Yeah, no, that's a good comparison, but can't believe that we finished. And here's the thing. I was convinced this whole list that you were just trying to subconsciously make me regret having a kid. Mm-hmm. I'm still thinking about it. Don't think that you're out. But you ended on Ninja 3 and Sleepaway Camp, and so this has been a good season just from that alone.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yep.
I'm here to have fun with this. I'm here for the two of us to have a good time together, and I know that when you like the movie, the episode goes better. Yeah. So, yeah, win-win.
Well, it's like, you now know how like to fool me with seasons. Like you could have like 12 turds in there and just end with a couple good ones.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'm fine. No, this was great.
Yeah. Nice. I feel like this is the time that we should wrap up, but it doesn't feel right.
I don't know.
I don't know that I'm ready for season 10 to be over.
Well, I can call out states again.
Why would you waste time calling out states when you could just talk about how much we love Australia?
That's true. Australia, California, Oklahoma, Texas, Pennsylvania, the little state up next by Maine, Virginia. Those states love us.
And you know what we love?
All of them.
All the folks at Real Good.
That's true.
Because they make our streaming experience real good.
We gotta be careful because people might think we're actually sponsored by these MFers, and we're really not.
Well, we are in that they save us money.
Right. Yeah, that's right. You're right. Okay.
So
I apologize for cutting in.
They don't pay us money, but they save us money, which is kind of the same thing in the grand scope of things.
That's true. Yep. I can't believe we're sponsored, dude.
If I compare the amount of money I've spent to watch movies this season versus previous seasons, I'd say we're doing pretty well.
That app was a good find. That's for damn sure.
Mm-hmm. But don't use the paid version because they're not actually paying us.
Yeah. Don't get crazy.
And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening.